Central Bank of Nigeria stops sale of foreign exchange to bureau de change operators, holds policy parameters constant. Global economy to grow by 6%, Nigeria at 2.5%, says International Monetary Fund, IMF. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index up more than 1% following two-day rout. Asia stocks mostly fall. Plus, oil rises on U.S. fuel drawdowns despite surging coronavirus cases. This is Business Express reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. I am Benny Adams, your guide. Good to have you join us at a time like this, and we start by telling you that the International Monetary Fund retained its growth outlook for both Nigeria and the global economy for the year 2021, stating that global economy is projected to grow 6.0% in 2021 and 4.9% in 2022, while Nigeria's growth outlook has been maintained at 2.5% for the period. This is contained in the July World Economic Outlook of the fund.
Prioritize deliveries to low and lower middle income countries. It is important to remove trade restrictions on vaccine inputs and finished vaccines and make additional investment in regional vaccine capacity to ensure sufficient production. A related priority is to ensure that financially constrained economies maintain access to international liquidity. To ensure this, major central banks should clearly communicate their outlook for monetary policy and ensure that inflation fears do not trigger rapid tightening of financial conditions. A general allocation of special drawing rights equivalent to $650 billion, as proposed by the IMF, should be completed quickly so as to provide liquidity buffers for countries and help them address their essential spending needs.
For 2022, IMF says it forecasts Nigeria's economy to grow by 2.6% and South Africa by 2.2%. And moving on, the chairman of the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, ICPC, Professor Bolaji Owasanoye, says the private sector was responsible for over 60% illegal movement of funds from Africa to foreign countries. In a statement by the ICPC spokesperson Azuka Ogaga, the ICPC boss said the perpetrators of illicit financial flows channeled the funds through commercial activities enabled by the private sector. Owasanoye explained that a bulk of corruption going on in the country is perpetrated by the private sector. About 60% of funds taken or stolen away from Africa through illicit financial flows are being done by the private sector, basically through commercial transactions, seemingly harmless transactions that are put together by accountants, auditors, and bankers. State's Fiscal Transparency, Accountability and Sustainability Program for Results, in collaboration with World Bank, Open Government Partnership, and other relevant stakeholders, is to strengthen the fiscal transparency and accountability of government through the Citizens Accountability Reports. National Coordinator of the program, Stephen Okon, stated this during the Northeast National Workshop on Citizens Accountability Report in Abuja.
Essentially, it is aimed at keeping states going by way of discipline, financial discipline. It's also intended to entrench in states common fiscal behavior that promote transparency.
The CAR will also enable the civil society organizations, the media, and the organized private sector players to ask the right questions about their common wealth and how the funds are being utilized by government to provide goods and services to the generality of its people.
NECA reports that participants described the Citizens Accountability Report as a critical milestone in the reform journey of Nigeria, capable of increasing transparency and accountability if the opportunity it presents is well utilized by the stakeholders. As Nigeria braces up for the implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Adeni Adebayo, is of the view that there is need for more sensitization of the micro, small and medium enterprises, that is the MSMEs, on the benefits of the market. This is coming on the heels of a report at a roundtable dialogue on AFCFTA agreement organized by the Nigeria's Employers Consultative Association in Abuja on Tuesday. The minister welcomes the report titled Continental Integration and the Nigerian Economy, with focus on the MSMEs in the country. He noted that the report was to fill knowledge gap on the possible effects of AFCFTA on the economy. A report of surveys conducted for 1,800 MSMEs in 5 states covering multiple socio-cultural zones to evaluate the awareness and preparedness of MSMEs indicate a knowledge gap. The minister disclosed that AFCFTA has the capacity to boost intra-African trade and is expected to deliver an integrated continental market consisting of 1.27 billion consumers with an aggregate GDP of $3.4 trillion, with Nigeria as the largest economy in Africa having the potential to increase its trading volumes. The Central Bank of Nigeria will no longer sell foreign exchange to operators of bureau de change (BDCs) in the country, in what the governor described as a control measure against economic sabotage and illicit financial flow. Governor of the Apex Bank, Godwin Emefiele, announced this at the end of July's Monetary Policy Committee meeting. He also announced the retention of all policy rates. Leah Katumbabatunde completes the story.
It's the 280th edition of the Monetary Policy Committee meeting and the third for the year 2021. The economic fundamentals show a slow but steady recovery. However, concerns around the foreign exchange market have visibly peaked among committee members. Over 5,000 registered bureau de change operators are active in the Nigerian space, with a lot more on the queue for approval. A visibly disturbed governor of the CBN says despite selling $110 million weekly to the operators, they have become accessories to illicit financial flows, posing a risk to the economy.
As for those foreign organizations involved, we will report them to their regulators. We will write to those organizations seeking their understanding and that they must desist. If they seek to operate in Nigeria, they must go through the right channels through which they must procure either foreign exchange or procure Naira for their domestic operations.
He says unsatisfied foreign exchange customers should call 0700 2255 226 or send an email with your concerns to the Apex Bank using cpd@cbn.gov.ng. The bank will also commence the issuance and transactions of the Nigerian digital currency or the e-Naira from October 2021, but transactions in cryptocurrencies remain banned in the country.
The e-Naira is being introduced to complement existing types of monies and not to replace them. I would emphasize that cryptocurrencies are private monies which are not regulated by any regulatory authority. Therefore, using them is your own individual decision.
The outcomes of the meeting include a decision to work with other policymakers in bridging the gap between certificates and skills, improving food security, and enhancing productivity to push economic growth above population growth. The committee maintained its policy stance and warned beneficiaries of CBN's interventions against default in repayment.
Well, joining me to discuss the outcome of monetary policy meeting is the financial and economic analyst, Dr. David Aheruvo. Doctor, You're welcome to Business Express.
Thank you
Good
very
to have
much.
you again.
Thank
I remember
you.
the last time you and I were here was also on NPC.
On NPC 2 years.
Well, the media space has been saturated by the outcome of the just concluded NPC meeting. In your own analysis, will I say, what is your take on the outcome, the decision of the bank as regards to foreign exchange availability?
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.
Well, this NPC rate has been on now for almost 2 years.
Yeah.
Be hanging between 11.5% to 13%.
It's been consistent.
Very consistent. But the question is it good for us?
Okay.
And is it good? If it is good, how is it good? What effect does it have? And if it is not good, what do we do? Because an interest rate of 11.5%, which the bank will build on their own, is likely very high.
Okay.
It's high compared to other jurisdictions.
Okay.
Or other continents. I mean, other countries.
Possibly, I not seeing a possibility that it is courtesy the situation we are
yes,
in. That
to
Nigeria's situation is actually a peculiar
It
case.
is intended to control inflation.
Okay, the burning issue is
Yes.
the availability of the foreign exchange, talking about Forex, where the CBN says it will no longer sell to bureaus of change. Or
For me, it's both good and bad.
Okay.
Good in the sense that they have an alternative, an effective alternative to satisfy the customers and control the illicit fund transfer.
That is CBN.
That is CBN.
Okay.
If they have alternative route of satisfying the customers. But if they don't have, and they just want people to go to the bank and come back and report to them, it's going to be bad. Because there's going to be a lot of complaint. I wonder whether the CPD, that is the Consumer Protection Department of CBN, will be able to handle that.
But like from what we heard as part of the outcome, the modalities are actually being put in place already to ensure that the commercial banks are actually efficient to providing this foreign exchange to those who genuinely
We have seen this in 2016.
Yeah.
It was banned in 2016 too.
Yeah.
And they came back to it.
Okay.
It's simply because the commercial banks were not effective. Otherwise, they are making business out of it. They are making business out of it.
If you look at the naira today in the parallel market,
Yes.
it's not looking good. Would you attribute to
of course,
this decision?
there must be a reaction.
And do you, this reaction, how do you see it lingering? Will it linger,
will linger,
or is just a very brief thing?
No, it will linger as long as the foreign exchange is not available. It's an issue of demand and supply. If the supply is not there, then the price will be high. It's as simple and short as that in economics theories.
So are you saying the commercial banks don't really have the capacity to meet this demand?
Not that they don't.
They are going to be overwhelmed at the beginning.
At the beginning, they will be overwhelmed. And at the middle or at the end of it, they would like to make more money out of it. It's a business. It's strictly business.
Part of the reasons given is the need to harmonize the exchange rate, which has been an issue over time. This decision has been taken back in the days, but later reversed. Don't you think if we had been on it ever since, it would have been better for it at this level? And do you see this? In my own view, I think it's better late than never. What's your take on it?
Well, if it is done now, as it is to save situation, it's okay. That means that you have enough foreign currencies to go around. If you don't have, and the banks are not willing to do anything about it, then the price will jump up, because these BDCs that have been denied this thing, they will look for other means of providing for their stock. While they provide for their stock, they'll be waiting for those that could not get it, and they will sell it at their own price. Okay. And that is why the price is high today.
Okay, away from foreign exchange and money issues. One of the issues the CBN, Governor Hamad.
Let me put in one thing. Okay. But I see that if the cryptocurrency come into play,
Which the CBN say they're going
Yes,
to
if it
1st
comes to
October?
play,
Okay.
if the CBN can put this in order as urgently as possible, it might come to soften the foreign currency crisis in the short run.
Yeah, positive about that.
Positive, yes, I'm positive about
Well, let's see how things
cryptocurrency
go.
can be of help, yes.
Okay, another issue the CBN dwelt on is on the need for Nigerian graduates to stick to the space of study. Talking about in practice, you see a trained lawyer in banking.
Banker, yes.
Do you see that actually auguring well for the economy? I'm talking about bringing in expertise in
Let's
the
first of all
execution
look
of
at
things.
how the educational system is. Somebody has the potential for medicine. He wants to read medicine, and you give him business admin.
That is from the entry
point. What he's competent to do and what was in his mind to do is going to still be in his mind. At the end of the day, you discover that he will not be a better business administrator.
Wow. Okay.
So whatever comes, he will take. But if you give him what he wants and he go in there, like some lawyers that wants to be an accountant, they want to be in the bank, and you now give him law, he will make sure that he gets a job in the bank. So there are a lot of
that earlier
urge.
aspiration.
So it is something that should be planned from the beginning. However, if you want to control it and say, if you are a lawyer, stick to your law. If you are an accountant, a round peg in a round hole.
Okay.
If that is what you want, then you should start doing it from the educational level.
Okay, lastly, what is your take on the various interventions of the CBN and the recovery process? Is it making the desired impact?
Yeah, on the interventions, I have a very strong feeling that CBN is not doing enough in terms of monitoring those interventions.
Okay, monitoring.
Yes. And
not the rollout.
No, they are not monitoring it, and the actualization of the intervention, of the objectives of the interventions, are not very, very copious.
Thank you so very much, Dr. David, on sharing your thoughts on the way to go for the economy.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
I'm grateful. Thank you.
And as predicted, the Naira fell slightly to the dollar at the parallel market few hours after the Central Bank of Nigeria on Tuesday announced the discontinuity of forex supplies to the Bureau de Change operators in the country. Now let's see how the Naira is exchanging for other currencies. The new board of National Insurance Corporation of Nigeria, known as Nikon Insurance, formally took over the reins of power with its maiden board meeting at the corporation's head office in Abuja. Addressing a handful of Nikon's management staff led by the Deputy General Manager, Corporate Advocacy, Kunle Adewale, the interim board chairman, Lamis Diko, who led other board members, called for cooperation with the board to reposition the insurance company, which he described as a national legacy. Nikon Insurance was privatized in 2005, with the core investor having 70% shares, with federal government retaining 30%. The federal government shares were later diluted, but the fortunes of the company continued to decline, with most of the assets used as collateral to collect loans from banks. This prompted the Asset Management Corporation of Nigeria to take over affairs of the company. A decision the core investor went to court to challenge. The court ruled in favor of AMCON, but the investor went on an appeal, which the court asked the parties to maintain status quo, leading to the taking over of the new board. And now oil prices climbed on Wednesday after industry data showed U.S. crude and product inventories fell more sharply than expected last week, reinforcing expectations that demand would outstrip supply growth even amid a surge in COVID-19 cases. U.S. West Texas Intermediate crude futures rose 43 cents to $72.08 a barrel, reversing Tuesday's 0.4% decline. Brent crude futures rose 38 cents to $74.86 a barrel after shedding 2 cents on Tuesday in first decline in 6 days. Gold pin near key 1,800 level ahead of Fed policy decision. Let's take a trip to the commodities market. Well, the Nigerian stocks dipped for a second day in a row Wednesday as sell pressure returns to the market. At the close of trade, the all-share index recorded a marginal decline of 0.3% to settle at 38,791.03 basis points. 237 million shares traded in 4,305 deals valued at 1.883 billion naira. Equity capitalization also declined to close the session at 20.21 trillion naira. The most traded stocks are Wando, Zenith Bank and Access Bank. Moving on to the global markets. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index up more than 1% following two-day rout. Asia stocks mostly fall. Bosserebo has the details of global market. Bosserebo, over to you.
Thank you very much, Benny. Global markets are focused towards the U.S. Federal Open Markets Committee's interest rate decision, with investors looking for clues as the timeline for monetary policy tightening. U.S. stock index futures were mostly negative in early trading Wednesday after the major averages pulled back from record highs, snapping a 5-day winning streak, although investors are optimistic as figures continues to roll in. The futures contracts tied to the Dow Jones Industrial Average was negative. It depreciated 0.24% to close 35,058.52. S&P 500 dipped 0.47% and Nasdaq Composite also depreciated 1.21%. Shares in Asia Pacific were mostly lower on Wednesday, with stocks in Hong Kong seeing a partial bounce back from a 2-day retreat. The Hang Seng Index in Hong Kong closed 1.54% higher at 25,473.88, while the Shanghai dipped 0.58% to close 3,661.59, and the Nikkei also follows suit to depreciate 1.39% to close 27,581.66. European markets edged higher on Wednesday amid a busy day for major corporate earnings, while investors awaited a key policy announcement from the U.S. Federal Reserve. DAX topped 0.29%, FTSE 0.32%, and CAC 40 also appreciated 0.88% at 6,588.51. While in Africa, stocks were mixed, with the South Africa's JSE Africa Top 40 and Tunisia's Tunidex posting gains, while Nairobi's all-share, Namibia's overall index, and Ghana's GSE Composite were negative. So that's the market review on the global scene, Benny.
Thank you so very much, Bosede. But before we close, let's leave you with these lines from the governor of the central bank, Godwin Emefiele. If you have accessed credit facilities from the Apex Bank, you might want to hear this.
But what we do appeal to you is that when you take money, use it for good reasons and pay it back. It is not national cake, it is not a grant, it is a loan which you must pay. And let me warn, if you think you took the money you will not pay, under some kind of funding arrangement, you will pay. We have your data. We know where you are. We will find you. So use it for good purpose. After using it, you pay back, you service the interest. Your profit, you can use it to go to the bar. You can use it to marry, but don't use the principal to go to the bar because you will pay. Thank you very much.
Well, that wraps this edition of Business Express. Remember to keep in touch with us by sending in your comments, observations, and suggestions. Also be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on NTA's channel. Business Express returns Thursday at 9:30 a.m. Be safe out there. I am Benny, and I'm saying keep doing, thinking and doing business.